9 tipping elements for global warming listed. Concerned that humans might push Earth into major climate shifts, a team of experts has published a study that lists 9 tipping elements or areas of concern for policymakers. Arctic sea ice and the Greenland ice sheet, both of which have shown significant melt, were regarded as the most sensitive tipping elements with the smallest uncertainty. Society in general may be lulled into a false sense of security by smooth projections of global change. The scientists at British, German, and U.S. institutes wrote in a report saying there are many little understood thresholds in nature. The greatest and clearest threat is to the Arctic, with summer sea ice loss likely to occur long before and potentially contribute to Greenland ice sheet melt. They wrote in the journal Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. The experts coined the term tipping element to describe those components of the climate system that are at risk of passing a tipping point, which was defined as a critical threshold at which a small change in human activity can have large, long-term consequences for the Earth's climate system. Yes, the planet Earth is a living being in some kind of sense. These tipping elements are candidates for surprising society by exhibiting a nearby tipping point, the authors noted. Many of these tipping points could be much closer than we previously thought. Our findings suggest that a variety of tipping elements could reach the critical point within this century under human-induced climate change. The greatest threats are tipping of the Arctic sea ice and the Greenland ice sheet, and at least 5 other elements could surprise us by exhibiting a nearby tipping point. Other sudden changes linked to climate change, stoked by human use of fossil fuels, including a dieback of northern pine forests, or a stronger warming of the Pacific under El Nino weather events that can disrupt weather worldwide. The experts based the list on a 2005 workshop of 36 leading climate scientists, a survey of 52 other experts, and a review of scientific literature. In a statement released with the study, the authors summarized the 9 tipping elements by assigning them to categories tied to sensitivity and uncertainty, and conservatively estimating the time it would take each to undergo a major transition. Highly sensitive, smallest uncertainty. The Greenland ice sheet. Warming over the ice sheet accelerates ice loss from outlet glaciers and lowers ice altitude at the edges, which further increases surface temperature. The exact tipping point for disintegration of the ice sheet is unknown, since current models cannot capture the observed dynamic deglaciation processes accurately. But in a worst-case scenario, local warming of more than 3 degrees Celsius could cause the ice sheet to disappear. This would result and a rise of sea level of up to 7 meters. Arctic sea ice, approximately 10 years. As sea ice melts, it exposes a much darker ocean surface, which absorbs more radiation than white sea ice, so that the warming is amplified. This causes more rapid melting in summer and decreases ice formation in winter. Over the last 16 years, ice cover during summer declined markedly. The critical threshold global mean warming may be between 0.5 to 2 degrees Celsius, but could possibly already have passed. One model shows a nonlinear transition to a potential new stable state with no Arctic sea ice during summer within a decade or two. Intermediate sensitivity, large uncertainty. Recent gravity measurements in the West Antarctic ice sheet suggest that the ice sheet is losing mass. Since most of the ice sheet is grounded below sea level, the intrusion of ocean water could destabilize it. The tipping point could be reached with a local warming of 5 to 8 degrees Celsius in summer, possibly raising sea level by as much as 5 meters. The northern forests, approximately 50 years or less, exhibit a complex interplay between tree physiology, permafrost, and fire. A global mean warming of 3 to 5 degrees Celsius could lead to very large-scale dieback of the boreal forests within 50 years or less. Under climate change, the trees would be exposed to increasing water stress and peak summer heat and would be more vulnerable to diseases. Amazon rainforest, 50 years or perhaps less. Global warming and deforestation will probably reduce rainfall in the region by at least up to 30%. Lengthening of the dry season and increases in summer temperatures would make it difficult for the forest to re-establish. Some models project dieback of the Amazon rainforest to occur under 3 to 4 degrees Celsius global warming within 50 years or less. Even land use change alone could potentially bring forest cover to a critical threshold. Atlantic thermohaline circulation. The circulation of sea currents in the Atlantic Ocean is driven by seawater that flows to the North Atlantic, cools and sinks at high latitudes. If the inflow of fresh water increases, example, from rivers or melting glaciers, or the seawater is warmed, its density would decrease. A global mean warming of 3 to 5 degrees Celsius could push the element past the tipping point so that deep water formation stops. Under these conditions, the North Atlantic current would be disrupted. Sea level in the North Atlantic region would rise, and the tropical rain belt would be shifted. And there are other tipping points. El Nino, Southern Oscillation, Africa rainfall, Indian summer monsoon. No, these are more signs of the end times, last days. Yes, the earth is a living being in some kind of level. A self-regulating, balanced being.